It is WagerTalk Today, and it is Friday. Working for the weekend, July the 26th. We're live every Monday through Friday at noon Eastern. You, of course, can watch us 24/7 here on WagerTalk TV, on YouTube, YouTube Shorts, Instagram Live, TikTok, Twitter X. And when you're watching us live, be sure to throw those questions in the live chat. We will monitor them throughout the show. I am Steve Merrill, filling in for the Prez, but don't you worry, Teddy Covers. He is scheduled to be back this Monday. In the meantime, it is not Canadian free, though, because we have Carmine Bianco finishing off the show today on Friday. He's going to talk some soccer. Looking forward to that. But in the meantime, lots of baseball talk. We got Gianni the Greek on in the middle of the show. You also have a big game breakdown of the Astros-Dodgers, huge game this weekend series. Also, what bettors learn. We're going to talk a little football with Teddy Covers, but we lead it off with Andy Lang, the prop master. Andy, welcome to the show. You're going to look a little UFC and golf. How are you doing? Oh, high and tight. You're looking quick. The haircut, it plays. I like it.
Thank you, Steve. Feeling good.
Yes, you're welcome.
Life's good. Life's good. Up 83 units this year, having a 37-unit July. Low volume this week. We didn't have any plays Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, but that's kind of the name of the game. Just not a lot on the card, so we pick our spots, and I think this UFC card is unbelievably bettable. So really excited for UFC 304.
Let's talk about UFC 304. And we're going to start by breaking down the Shauna Bannon and Alice Ardeleon fight. Tell me about this one in UFC 304 this weekend.
Well, it's not going to be a high-level fight, but we got really good odds on Shauna Bannon to win by decision here. So Shauna Bannon was supposed to fight somebody else, and they backed out. So UFC tried to find another UFC fighter. They couldn't find someone. So who do you find to replace? Well, if we can't get a UFC fighter, let's just try and find somebody with a big social media following. Enter Alice Ardeleon. She is a MMA fighter, but she has a very risque Instagram following and a very explicit OnlyFans career going right now. So this is her Instagram. And we love fading these fighters who have another career with OnlyFans and Instagram. Make no mistake, she's not a good fighter at all, but she brings in the eyeballs. So she's going to fight Shauna Bannon. This is her UFC debut. She has been fighting absolute nobodies. Her last fight, she beat a woman who was 0-3. Shauna Bannon made her UFC debut in her last fight. She lost to Bruna Brazil, but she didn't look that bad. She got a lot more confidence as the fight went on. I think her striking's better. I know her cardio is going to be better. And this Alice Ardeleon had no business being in the UFC. The only reason they brought her in was because they desperately needed to fill a void. And her Instagram and OnlyFans is really what put her on the map. Congrats to her, but I don't like her fighting style. I don't like any of the competition that she's beat. In fact, in 2016, she actually fought a couple of current UFC fighters, and she lost to both of them. So I don't think Shauna Bannon is strong enough to get the finish, but I do think we're getting great odds around -120 for Bannon to get it to the judges' scorecard. And don't forget, Shauna Bannon is really good friends with Molly McCann, another English fighter who's fighting on this card. So Shauna Bannon just training with much better people in her camp. She's going to have the crowd behind her. I think this is Bannon by decision all day.
If the underdog can't fight, then why is the number so cheap? That's my question. I mean, we routinely seen these fights, -$5, -$7, -1,000. I mean, how come this isn't one of those?
Because Shauna Bannon's not very good either. she's a little bit better than the really bad fighter. Like, make no mistake, Shauna Bannon is not going to win a championship anytime soon. In fact, she was going to be an underdog in her with her previous matchup. She just happened to get a really nice gift that fighter backed out, and they put somebody who's not a UFC caliber fighter. So -180 on the money line, but I'll take it by decision.
Yeah, if you're going to, have a secondary career maybe where your face is involved looking pretty on stuff, you don't want to get too beat up, so she might submit early as well. I love the OnlyFans theory. When you threw that in the show notes, I was intrigued, and now I understand what it means. So I like it. Andy Lang, fade the newborn baby and fade the OnlyFans accounts with UFC and golf and tennis, other single individual sports. Andy Lang, the prop master, and Andy was very excited. You threw me a note yesterday that, Andy, ESPN is now advertised you can bet on darts. Is this now mainstream? Is the value gone, Andy Lang? Has it become public? Can we do a Fade the Public darts video in the near future, Andy?
I could not believe it. So yeah, Bet Rivers has a commercial airing on ESPN, and they are advertising that you can bet darts. It was only a matter of time. Word is out that darts is very, very profitable. In fact, we give out 2 free plays when I was co-hosting the last couple weeks, and we hit both of them. So I was just stunned. Of all the sports they advertised, Bet Rivers chose darts. So hidden gem of a market, but it's a sport that I have very, very high hopes for the future. You're going to see more and more events and leagues pop up.
I have to ask about the ad. Was it a dart focused ad, or were they just listing all the things that they have and darts was one of them? Or were they like, bet your darts now at Bet Rivers?
They focused on like 3 little segments. One was basketball props. One was this woman betting on football, and then it was a guy in a pub betting on darts, sitting there watching darts, putting bets on. It was an odd combination, but as you know, Teddy, that's right up my alley. Give me some football props, some basketball props, some darts props, and I'll meet you at the window to cash some tickets.
This is proof, Teddy, that summer is not over yet. Teddy Covers told us yesterday what bettors learned that summer ends next Thursday. You can bet on darts. It's probably the dog days of summer still if they're highlighting that as one of the betting options. WNBA is off to August 15th. NASCAR is off for a couple weeks, as you know, Andy, because of the Olympics. That might be the most random thing in history. Why didn't NBC just work out a TV deal with somebody else? I thought that was crazy, and I thought of Andy Lang as well when I saw NASCAR is off for the next 2 weeks because of the Olympics. Didn't realize it was an Olympic sport in Paris. Golf. I don't think golf's an Olympic sport this year, Andy, and baseball's not. Damn French, man. Can't wait till it's in LA in 2028. We get baseball back, I would hope, in the Olympics. But you're going to look at golf. It's another under-the-radar betting sport. Give us something to play this week on the links.
Actually, golf is an Olympic sport. They are doing golf.
My bad.
Yeah,
they
are.
In the odds. Okay.
And by the way, shout out to NBC, who continues to be the absolute worst network to cover golf. They screw up their coverage all the time, and what do you know? They happen to raise their subscription to Peacock, so you have to pay more to watch golf on the Olympics. Thanks very much, NBC. Like, how big does their yacht have to be? Yes, but anyway, for this tournament later today, round 2 score. Let's take a look at Lee Hodges, and I'm going to take his over 68.5 on his round 2 score. So Lee Hodges, he won this tournament last year. That was such an aberration. Like, it came out of absolute nowhere, and he won it by 7 shots. It was the tournament of his life. Well, since then, he's played in 25 tournaments. He has no top 10s since then. And yesterday, he went out and shot +2. Some stats are he was 66 off the tee, 148th approach. His putting was 129th. He was just terrible. But this is kind of more what Lee Hodges is, not the guy who won the tournament last year. The other thing is the wind is picking up a little bit. Yesterday we saw the afternoon play way more difficult than the morning, and Lee Hodges is playing at 1:43 Eastern time. He's going to get the crispier, tougher greens to play on. He's going to get a little bit more of the wind, so I don't expect him to make the cut. And 68.5 is pretty ambitious. He would have that's 3 under. So you would need a 5-shot difference for him to go under. I don't see it happening. Take the over 68.5 round 2.
So, I mean, certainly yesterday wasn't a great day for Hodges, but it wasn't a complete and abject disaster at 2 over, was it? I mean, is there the potential that this is his course, that like there's a reason that he won this one as opposed to the 25 tournaments that he's played since that? Or is this just a guy who got lucky once and we'll fade him any chance we get with a reasonable price since?
Lucky. This is an easy course. Shooting +2 is terrible. Like right now, he's tied for 117th. He would need to shoot 5 under just to make the cut. We talked about him on Tee Time. We talked about him as a player to fade. He's a fade player, but we see it. Some guys just have the tournament of their lives, and good for him. He got a win. He locked up his PGA Tour card for the next few years. This is more of what Lee Hodges is. He's kind of back there. He's not fighting for the win week after week. So I will take him to go over once again. I think he struggles even more.
It's Andy Lang, the prop master, and I say it every time Andy's on. It's a great way to diversify your investment portfolio because he does a lot of sports Teddy and I do not cover. Teddy and I, baseball, basketball, football. Andy's talking darts, lacrosse, golf, tennis, UFC. He does a little bit of football props as well because he is the prop master. But, Andy, all seriousness, we have a great special going this Friday right now, today only. Instant, 25% off anything you can fit in your cart. and that includes all access passes. So if you want all of these off sports that Andy covers, now is the time to get an all access. And the bigger the package, the more you save. In fact, you can save up to $500 on a 1-year all access instantly with the special today. But you don't have to stop with Andy Lang. Get Teddy covers, get myself, Steve Merrill, get everybody at Wager Talk, anybody you want, because it is a fill your cart, no limit on all daily packages and all access packages. Friday and Friday only, WagerTalk.com. And Andy, let people know what they might get when they get one of your all accesses.
Yeah, we got a 5% play that is up right now. We've got a couple UFC plays locked and loaded. Got a 4% Olympic play that is up as well. And the Olympics actually, there's hidden gem with some really good profits in there. There's some really good props. We talked about Olympic volleyball. Andrew McGinnis did a great job on props and parlays today. Ways to play some of these really big favorites. There's some really good sneaky lines in there. But the best way to take advantage is use that 25% off. You can get a 3-day pass if you're just interested in like UFC 304 plays. Our 5% parlay goes off this weekend. 9-2 in our last 11 of those, and we're plus 37 units in July, plus 83 units in 2024. So having a great year, looking to build the bankrolls and build the profits once more this weekend.
Yeah, once again, this is Friday only, and for every capper, you can get us right now and fill that cart with multiple cappers, multiple packages, any all-access or daily passes, 25% off instantly today and tonight on Friday only at WagerTalk.com. That was the prop master, Andy Lang. And Teddy, the reason I didn't realize golf was in the Olympics is because I didn't realize – I knew opening ceremonies were tonight, but I saw a little note on Wednesday that the soccer had started and rugby had started. I was like, oh, they've actually started the Olympics. And I like to log all the odds just so I can go back and check, who was favored for swimming or something. And as I was going down that list Wednesday, logging odds for about an hour from all the books, did not see golf. So maybe it had already started or I just missed it. But I did see volleyball, all the other sports that you would expect, like Andy just mentioned. But yeah, once again, Olympics, another great prop betting sport from Andy Lang at WagerTalk.com. Teddy, we got to get some football, and we got a lot of baseball coming up with Ace here, the Greek in just a moment. Also going to look at some soccer with Carmine Bianco. You're going to do a little baseball for a big game breakdown. But, hey, a little bit of football talk, right? Because as you told us yesterday, football starts now in 6 days, preseason, college football in full swing with the training camps, practices. What's something you learned yesterday in the world of sports and football?
So first, I do want to talk about that promo for the Fill Your Cart Friday. Game on 25 is the promo code you need to use to take advantage of that 25% discount for anybody and everyone. And really, these are the type of days where if you want to impulse buy, you can impulse buy. If you're thinking about making a long-term purchase, today's the day to do it. Again, Fill Your Cart Friday, 25% off everything. Just use that promo code Game on 25 at checkout. And of course, when it comes to the Olympics, Steve Merrill, I will tell you that my over-under for watching Olympics would be half a minute, and sharp money is on the under. I
get sucked in more than I planned, Teddy. I never plan to watch it, but then I'll turn it on and I get sucked into these team handball and these off sports. But I hear what you're saying.
Yeah. I do not get sucked in, and I walk out of the room when someone else is watching. It's just, my brain's filled with other stuff, including what's going on with UCLA and Hawaii. This is a hilarious story. And, of course, let's start with where the points would open. Opening night, Saturday, August 31st. UCLA at Hawaii. So the first book, I think, opened with DraftKings. They had UCLA was 18.5-point road chalk. And a little bit of money came for Hawaii. Westgate opened minus 17 after those first bets came on Hawaii. A couple of offshore books opened at minus 17 as well. Circa opened minus 16. The money's still coming for Hawaii. South Point opens minus 15.5. Well, by late June, 13.5 is a prevailing number at most books. So it didn't take all that long for a lot of Hawaii money to come in. And then we had Deshaun Foster's UCLA introductory press conference. And the only thing I can compare it to is the Joe Biden debate with Trump, which literally forced him to get out of the campaign. The odds were moving as Biden was talking or trying to talk. And obviously that single speech from Biden or that single debate from Biden cost him 4 more years of the presidency or potential for 4 more years of the presidency. So Deshaun Foster, as he is talking in what might be it was only 90 seconds. If you haven't seen the video, it's true awkwardness on display. It's the only way I can describe it. It was Biden-esque. If you don't know anything about UCLA, we're in LA, us and USC. So as Foster is speaking in the immediate aftermath, boom, they're like, this is UCLA's head coach. More money shows for Hawaii. The 13.5s get wiped out. The 13s get wiped out in a couple of books, moves as low as 12.5. And that was sharp money. And of course, at some point, the sharp money said that's low enough. Foster's already factored into this point spread. So what's happened? Since that initial knee-jerk reaction, we have to bet against Deshaun Foster and UCLA. Got down to 12.5. Since then, it's creeping back up. 13.5. Now, again, the prevailing number. So even with UCLA's disastrous opening press conference, even with all of this sharp money flowing towards the Rainbow Warriors, towards the Warriors, at this stage of the game, 13.5 the number, even though Foster's press conference was a disaster. And from a talent standpoint, it might well deserve to be a little bit higher than that. There's a big game. There's what I learned last night. Steve, back to you, my friend.
Yeah, Teddy, you know I've been doing this since the 90s. This will be my 29th football season as a professional handicapper, and I can't ever remember a time in history in which lines moved several points because of a press conference several weeks, a month before a game. It really is remarkable. Let me ask you this. Arthur DeCesar was on with us. He's usually on Fridays. He's on a well-deserved break with football approaching. He'll be back, I think, next week. But Art mentioned a few weeks ago when I was guest hosting with you that, we asked him about those early lines. I remember 2 or 3 games he mentioned. One was Hawaii at 17 getting some money. I'm curious, was Foster being factored in then, or what else was the sharp money looking at, do you think, to fade UCLA? And obviously that was just more kindling to the fire yesterday when he spoke, I guess.
Sure. So the markets have been down on UCLA from the very first numbers that I've seen. Money's come against UCLA. What happened in Foster's press conference is that it gave people a visual of this is why we're fading UCLA. It's a program that has undergone significant offseason changes, and we don't necessarily trust the guy they brought in to fix the problems at hand. And of course, obviously, when we're switching from the Pac-12 to the Big Ten, it's a significant learning curve, I think, for the Pac-12 schools as they travel back and forth over and over again this season. So there's been steady money against UCLA, but what stood out to me is not that the money poured in against Foster or against UCLA with Foster talking. It's the fact that after he finished talking, after money finished pouring in against UCLA, there were people that were like, yeah, this line's low enough. Let's bet them back up. That's when you know you've reached market equilibrium. That's when you know you've gotten the best of the number. If you laid 12.5 with UCLA, kudos to you. I don't think you'll see a better number than that, at least not right now.
Right, and also important to point out that move from, say, 18 to 17 to 13.5 was not like it was a normal, second week of the college football season on a Tuesday afternoon. It's very little money that's moving that. A lot of the books, as you mentioned, open on the blind at 16 or 17. And as we know, 15 and 16 are dead numbers. So really 17 and 14 is like a 1-point move on key numbers there. And once it hit 13.5, it had crossed over a very key number of 14. So interesting, though, and something a lot of people probably were not aware of, especially several weeks away, a month away from that game. But the markets are moving. College football is here, and the NFL starts in 6 days with the preseason next Thursday night. Speaking of numbers, moving markets, somebody follows it closer than anybody we know at WagerTalk.com. It's Gianni the Greek. Gianni, let me get your thoughts on that. I don't know if it was on your radar. I don't know if you had a part in the buyback at 13. What are your thoughts on that Hawaii-UCLA game? I'm sure you've been looking at it at some point over the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, none of the guys that I work with got involved with that. So far, most of the groups that I've working with as far as college football goes have just been betting season win totals. Any of the positions they've taken, I've learned from years past, they're more or less just trying to determine which way the line's going to move. Because so many times in the past years, I've gotten down for them in late July, early August, and then come that week, we're betting the opposite side. We're 2Xing it, 3Xing it the other way. When I seen that happen over and over and over again, it made me really pause on preseason bets from these guys, because I saw so many times they were simply determining which way the market's going to move. Since they're good at doing that, they're able to set themselves up with huge middles. I don't have the ability to ask them why they're placing these bets. So I just sit back and wait. Like I always say with information, I'm never the first to get it. So I always look to the market to confirm it. Like when someone ever texts me with so-called inside information, I always look at the market. If the market doesn't reflect it, then I don't believe what they're telling me, because there ain't no way in hell I'm the first guy that's getting it. So I always make sure to confirm it with the market. And with the preseason stuff, I just like looking at it and making my own reads and adjustments. But as far as piggybacking it or even releasing the subscribers, I've learned to stay patient and wait until the season starts, except for those season win totals.
So let me ask you about that. I know we're going to talk some MLB in just a minute, but Gianni, I know you are a guy that has your fingers all over the betting world. When it comes to these college football season wins, NFL season wins, talk about some of the stuff you're betting right now. So talk about some of the stuff that's taking early action, because we're all ears. Guys, get your pencils ready. Johnny's going to talk fast.
Yeah, so glad that you asked, Teddy, because I do have a bunch of season win totals that we released already. Only one in the NFL. I'll give that to you now. It was on the Dallas Cowboys. We started betting that under, I think it was at 10 and a half, was it? From like minus 160 or 50 all the way up to close to minus 200. That is rare. And I was more surprised that we were able to get down as many times as I did, like the second and third, fourth number, without the adjustment a half a game. I didn't understand why that was happening, so I didn't know if there was some kind of resistance on the other side. But now where it sits, I feel comfortable that we did get a really good betting under on the Dallas Cowboys. The one future that they continue to bet is this Boise State team. For some reason, they're really high on Boise State team. Boise State as far as winning the conference. Boise State as far as going over season win totals. Boise State as far as making the college football playoffs. Rarely are the groups that I work with ever betting Team A to make the playoffs, because a lot of those holds are really high on those futures. They rarely ever bet a team to win the Super Bowl, a team to win the national championship. Rarely do you see that. But I saw them not only come in, but then ask for more money on that. So you know more than me as far as X's and O's go. But they're really high on this Boise State team and really low on Mississippi State. I know Mississippi State was getting faded from them every chance they got. And that was another one where they started at a lower vig and went all the way up to 2-1 to get under 4.5. So 4 is probably one of those key numbers on season win total for Mississippi that stopped them, but they were willing to lay up to 2-1. So 2 out of 3 times they believe it's much greater than that this team doesn't win more than 4 games.
And, Johnny, you're going to find out pretty early on if that Boise State tickets are live, because I'm checking the schedule now. They're at Oregon for game 2 on September 7th at Oregon. So that'll probably be a pivotal game in the season. And we're tying it all together that at Hawaii in October, and they're at UNLV. You can watch them in person on October 25th at UNLV. So that's very interesting stuff there. Boise State, sharp money is bullish on Boise State this season. Hey, let's talk about some Friday baseball while we got you. I mentioned the trade deadline is looming just a few days away. First pitch was on at 11 a.m. Eastern. We just did that show, and I brought it up again when we talked about this Rangers-Blue Jays game. You got the Rangers, World Series champs, underachieving this season. Blue Jays vastly underachieving. Probably are sellers here at the trade deadline coming up. But what are you doing with this game tonight? Toronto is slight favorite, about $1.20 home favorite over the Rangers.
Yeah, and disclaimer, I'm getting crushed in Major League Baseball in 2024. Coming off a great season in 2023, where I believe I finished number 1 in profit. And historically, baseball has been one of the most profitable sports. I've been asked that question all the time. If there's only one sport you could bet, which would it be? Even though I enjoy betting other sports a lot more than baseball, it would be baseball. Only because historically, it's given us the most potential for profit. And I think ROI-wise, it's probably been the most profitable if I go back a decade. But again, I've gotten crushed this season. And more importantly, yesterday, we're coming off one of the worst days. So it's continued after the second half. Just want to make that clear, because I probably should have came on with an MMA pick, because I think they went to 0-2 in baseball last week. But we are on Toronto again. We bet Toronto yesterday. They got crushed, losing 13-0. There's a little recency bias, of course, when that's the case. And it's almost a perfect storm for that, because you have a Texas team that's coming in on fire. since the break. I believe they lost the first 2, but since then they've been perfect, winning 5 straight. And then they have a starting pitcher, again, perfect storm as far as recency bias goes, who's coming off a almost perfect game where he had 0 earned runs allowed. I look for situations like that because I believe that more times than not, I will be getting the best of it, fading a spot like that. It doesn't guarantee me that I'm going to cash a ticket that night, but that's not my goal. If I was only going to bet tonight, then the only thing that matters to me is picking the winner of this game. But since I plan on betting tomorrow, next week, next year, my only job is to find inefficiencies in numbers. And since I don't have the algorithms that a lot of these betting syndicates do to determine that for me, I take advantage of certain biases. And historically, I've done well doing that, looking for teams, as Marco says, that aren't as good as they look or as bad as they look in any one spot, and then looking to go against them or with them. And Texas falls under that category where I think, although they were, like you said, World Series champs, I think as far as runs scored, runs allowed go, they're right where they should be. Maybe a little 1 game or 2 games better than they should. So they haven't gotten lucky or unlucky, but the same thing goes with Toronto. So these are 2 teams that are playing just like they should. But I do like Toronto in this one. This is the first time they are meeting there at home. We laid up to -120, started betting them at -108, came back at -114, then again, -118. Usually when they hit it 2, 3, 4 times, you're not going to see much resistance come back the other way because there's not real scalping ability except on that first number. Because again, when you do this for as long as I have, you get to know exactly what, if they're betting a side or if they're scalping a side. And I don't think this is a scalp at all.
Let me ask you this, Gianni, because everything I've read about Toronto since the All-Star break is all talking about the trade deadline. Trade deadline, this guy's going to get traded, that guy's going to get traded. The quotes in the locker room are, I hope I don't get traded, I might get traded. It seems like it's a very distracted team right now. And it's certainly played out on the field. Yesterday's 13-0 loss was not an aberration. They've been terrible since the All-Star break. Is that something that your group factors in, this trade? Do you guys slow it down before the trade deadline? Are you clicking on all cylinders before the trade deadline? Is it a non-factor for you? Talk about that conceptually for me.
So glad you asked, Teddy, because the truth is they haven't slowed down. Like, even though we've had a losing first half of the Major League Baseball season, they started off the second half immediately doing exactly what they did in the first half and what they did year after year after year after year. Like, if they like a side, we're going to bet a side. Now, obviously, I'm sure everything gets factored in, like we say, it's baked into the cake. So as far as trade deadlines and being distracted and that kind of noise, which is difficult to quantify, I'm sure their handicappers factor that into the equation. But a perfect example is over the last couple of days, they were not afraid to bet teams like the Chicago White Sox, teams like the Washington Nationals. And not only are they betting these teams, Teddy, but they're betting them on the money line. They're betting them on the run line, and then they're betting them first 5 money line and first 5 run line. The only reason they have ever done that is because they are so certain that the line is so inefficient that they have to get as much money down as possible. And since the baseball lines move so significantly on small limits, they're forced to diversify by betting it 2 or 3 different ways. I see it in college basketball when they use round robins to get college basketball total money down because they think their edge is so great on those totals, but the lines move so significantly, it's more profitable for them to tie in those round robins, which again, it works. So obviously, they see the edge. And as far as baseball, it seems like the same thing. When they don't care about short-term results, they're looking at long-term. And if they think that that number is off, they're going to bet it. As far as, the trade deadline, like I said, I'm sure they're factoring into their handicap. And I do, because I don't piggyback everything. I don't release everything either to my subscribers. But fortunately, like a side like that, I was leaning on Toronto as well. And I'm just one of those bettors that I don't mind looking at betting an ugly team on paper. Like I do it, I talk about it in MMA all the time. Like, don't confuse yourself. A -400 is always going to look better than the dog on paper. Now, in this case, that's not it. Toronto is the favorite. But what I mean is I'm not too afraid of the narrative around the matchup. because that's hard to quantify. And the guys I work with, who I have a big sample size, I trust are factoring in most, if not all, of the factors they possibly can.
And that's what makes a betting market, right? Two-way action. And you got to make the price attractive when a team is ugly or a team is in a slump or there's a bias against them, a recency bias, like you said. Hey, speaking of ugly, Gianni, let's talk about the White Sox game. Seattle, Chicago. White Sox have been just miserable this year. What's interesting about this one, though, is if you were to tell me we had an over-under of 7, I would have assumed it was a Seattle home game. Their games have been so low scoring at home, but this is actually a road game because they are at Chicago against a very weak offensive team. But this line did look a little low to me, and we've seen what I'd say one of the sharper offshore books go to 7.5 under, but there's a lot of 7 overs out there still. Which way are you leaning in this game?
Yeah, we went over 7, and I even have a green light to take the 7.5 at decent plus money. Haven't had to yet because I was able to get more than enough down at the 7. But anytime they're willing to go above a key number with 9s, 7s, or 11s, I always pay attention to those a lot more. And this is another situation where I think it's an overreaction. You have both teams that are well below as far as unders go. I think Seattle's 14 games below 500 unders. White Sox are 10 games on unders below 500. But then when you look at their runs per game, it's above what today's total is. So it seems like the market has overreacted, not overreacted, but it's adjusted like it's supposed to because they have been under teams, especially in the first half. But I always talk about regression and progression, and that's what you expect to happen, especially when you look at the bigger sample size. One team's averaging about 8 runs, a little over 8 runs a game. The other one's averaging a little over 7.5 runs a game. That's the big number for them as far as the entire season goes. But then I also like the matchup because, again, we have a little recency bias to take advantage of. 7 of the last 8 have gone under for Seattle. 6 of the last 7 have gone under for the White Sox. You look at Kirby, 1 earned run in his last start. You look at Thorpe, 0 earned runs in his last start. The market's going to adjust based off of that. You almost have to. And you're not, like you guys touched on, when you looked at the 7, you thought this game's probably in Seattle because of the low total. But no, it's just a reflection of the market adjusting to all these, the recent data that I touched on. 7 of 8 unders, 6 of 7 unders for the other team. The 2 pitchers coming off amazing starts. The first half, these teams, a lot more unders than overs. All that is usually going to force an adjustment towards that bias of unders, which will give us more value on the over. Now, it doesn't mean you got to blindly bet the over on these 2 teams for the rest of the year, but I will be looking for spots to go over instead of spots to go under for either of these teams, at least for a little bit, because I expect the market to be biased towards unders when either of these teams are playing. And when they're playing each other, again, it makes it the perfect storm for a guy that handicaps the market the way I do. You know, I do it what works for me. Everyone should bet the way that works for them or handicap what works for them. This is what's worked for me. And when I see a spot like this, as most people would be like, oh, this is a dead under, my mind works the opposite. And I'm like, oh, this got overwritten all over. It's got 12 runs written all over it. After seeing data like that in the short term, when it doesn't, when there's a little conflict in the longer term.
Gianni, it is Fill Your Cart Friday. 25% off everything and anything you want to put in your cart. What do you have for the clients going right now at WagerTalk.com?
I've got a UFC card. I hope they put it up already because I've been so red hot in the UFC. Coming off another 5% win. I think I'm like 6-1 this year on those in MMA. So I will have an MMA card. I've isolated a play that I'm not going to force any 5% play. It's right there borderline. If the line moves a little bit, it will be a 5% play. Otherwise, there will be a handful of 4% plays in that card. And I will be having a steam room tomorrow. So if you've bought a day, a week, a month, a year, what have you, Saturday, make sure you get that link because we will be meeting at 1:00 in the steam room and we'll be going over the Major League Baseball card. We'll be going over the entire UFC card and there to answer any questions you may have. So thanks again. Thank you both guys for your time. Thanks for having me. And whether you follow or fade, I hope you cash them today and make some money. I sure need this bounce back in baseball. That's for sure.
Hey, Gianni the Greek, it's a great time to add him to the All Access special with an instant 25% off because you get that Steam Room included. He just talked about that. You can interact with him, ask him questions live when he does the Steam Room. Check that out tomorrow on Saturday, part of WagerTalk.com. All right, Teddy, let's finish off a little bit more baseball talk before we get to Carmine Bianco to talk some soccer. You're going to look at one of the bigger weekend series, and we got Red Sox, Yankees. And by the way, we broke both of these big series down on MLB First Pitch earlier, so watch that replay here on Wager Talk TV. Click subscribe, click the bell for instant alerts. Red Sox, Yankees, but maybe the biggest series, Astros, Dodgers. Is it a potential World Series preview, Teddy Covers? What are your thoughts on this tonight?
I don't think it's a potential World Series preview because I don't think the Houston Astros are making the World Series this year.
Ooh.
Big game breakdown time. Let's talk Dodgers and Astros. And I used the LA Dodgers as a play here yesterday with my big game breakdown. You better believe I'm going to come right back with the Dodgers again today, a client play this evening. To read the full written analysis on my page, wt.buzz/TC. Right now, look at the Wager Talk live odds screen. I'm seeing Houston anywhere from -120 to -130. You're getting you can find Dodgers right now +110 or better. All right, this team is clicking. They're 6-1 their last 7 games. 5 of those 6 wins. We're thinking about the Dodgers laying $2, laying $2. No. They've been short favorites, -129 or lower 5 times during that span, including yesterday. You read the quotes coming out of the locker room. Austin Barnes, we know what kind of team we are. We've had some rough patches, but we're still one of the best teams in baseball. We're feeling good about ourselves. Dodgers 11-3 in Gavin Stone's last 14 starts. He's not a named pitcher. He's an underdog tonight. He hasn't given up more than 4 runs in any of those 14 outings. And his splits show very clearly he's at his best on the highway and at night. Exactly what's going on this evening. Houston, what did they lose? 3 out of 4 to close out their road trip. The bats have gone cold, 4 runs or less in 7 straight game prior to yesterday's win at Oakland. Framber Valdez, certainly a quality hurler, but it's not like the Dodgers haven't seen him before. Like the Dodgers haven't had success against him before. And it's not like the Dodgers bats are as cold as the Astros bats right now. LA is cheaply priced these days. They're a dog tonight in a game I expect them to win. Give me the Dodgers. +100 or better is worthy of a 2% client play for me. That's where we're at for Friday night. At least one of my plays in MLB. Running good in baseball, Steve. See if we can roll another one tonight. That's my big game breakdown. Back to you, my friend.
Teddy Covers 21-8 the last 30 days in baseball. Number 1 units won. So he is technically the most profitable baseball capper the last 30 days at WagerTalk.com. So you might want to listen to what he says. And I just snuck out a free futures play from him. If you all didn't see what I did there, asked him if it was a World Series preview. He said no, the Astros won't be there. So Teddy Covers likes the Dodgers to win, or to win the NL pennant. To win the NL pennant, I just tricked Teddy into giving me an NL pennant prediction because he wasn't against his Dodgers there. No, but Teddy, all seriousness, we've talked about it all week. If you told us Dodgers would be like at pick-em price range the entire week or so after the All-Star break, we'd have said that's crazy because this is a team we thought would be at 110 wins already. So this is a Dodgers team that, despite being 20 games up, seems to be a little bit underrated right now in the betting markets, and they've been cashing for the most part. And you get them as a dog, a rare dog tonight at Houston. That's Teddy Covers, the hottest baseball capper right now at WagerTalk.com. All right, it's Prez free zone on Friday, but we got to finish it off. We can't make it Canadian free because there's just a damn good Canadian we got to talk to, and that's Carmine Bianco. I don't want to say my favorite Canadian, but Carm, you're definitely in the top 2 or 3. You're up there, my man. And I got to ask you, what is this Leagues Cup? I assume it's soccer. Tell us about it and maybe give us a little something in it as well.
It's been like the summer of soccer, but it's a 4-week tournament, 3 countries, 2 leagues, 1 champion. Of course, the 3 countries are Canada, the U.S., and Mexico, and it's all the domestic league teams. 47 teams, 45 of them are playing the group stages. 2 of them, Columbus, who won the MLS Cup last year, get a bye right into the knockout stages. And Club America get a bye into the knockout stages as well, too, as they finish with the most points in Mexico. Mexico has 2 seasons there, the Clausura and the Apertura. So they had the most points through those 2 seasons. So they get an automatic bye into the into the knockout stages. Inter Miami were last year's winners of the inaugural Leagues Cup, so it's a fun tournament. Obviously, Lionel Messi led them to that last year. We'll see whether he can do it this year. He's injured right now and likely won't play in the group stages. He won't play on Saturday, that's for sure, Steve. But 4 weeks of action, and it kicks off tonight with, I think there's 5 games on tonight's card.
Give us something. Give us a Canadian versus U.S. pick to start things off. Let's go make it international.
Yeah, why not? It's what we're going to do is we're going to get into some of the other ones, some of the other games next week. But Montreal and Orlando, and I've been waiting for this Orlando team to start playing better. This is an Orlando team that last year had a very good season, finished with 63 points, just back of first place in the East. And they were mired in like the bottom 10 of the Eastern Conference standings, the bottom half of the standings, waiting for them to do something. And they finally did. They just made a couple changes to the lineup. And sometimes that's all it takes. They have a fantastic midfielder, number 10. They made him the number 10, Martin Ojeda. And when you put a guy in the position he should be playing, he all of a sudden he starts to open the field, create chances for his players, and Orlando just went on a roll and started to win games, and now they're in a playoff spot. They're a buy-on team, and they've been taking money over the last 3 to 4 days. When these lines came out, they were a little slow. A lot of books putting these lines out, but they have been picking up money, and now they get a Montreal team who had put together a nice little run of their own, and then they lose to Toronto at home at Saputo Stadium to close out, not to close out the season, but to close out the MLS before this tournament starts. And they're just not playing well as a team. This is one where you just take the hotter team. You're probably going to have to lay a goal unless you're perfectly fine with laying a minus 200 VIG. I'm not normally one who lays that amount of VIG on any team. You have to hit at a bigger rate. But Orlando's definitely the play here. We're going to see some goals in this one. And there are some great options over at places like DraftKings. If you click on the game and then you click on game parlays, you can minimize that Orlando VIG from minus 200 by taking Orlando and over 1.5 total goals scored. That's at about 150. You can go one step further, take Orlando to win and over 2.5 goals. This game line is currently at 3.25. They expect goals in this one. And you can get that for minus 115. So that Orlando win and over 2.5. And I'm going to tell you right now, that's one of my client plays. So I'm backing that one up with my clients tonight. Orlando to win and over 2.5 goals, combined goals scored. So 2-1 Orlando result gets us there.
I love soccer. It's my favorite sport.
Sorry. Let me try that again. I had a great follow for you, Carm. So this is an annual tournament, right? And we've had 2 other, feels like bigger international tournaments just finished. How many of these MLS teams are really going to put forth their best effort? Because the playoff races are right ahead of them when they come back. Is this a balls to the wall scenario, or is this a not so much scenario for the MLS teams?
No, and that's an excellent question, Teddy, because you look at it, and some of these teams, not only from Mexico but from the MLS, had players leave to go play for either South American teams in the Copa America, or for Team US, for the Mexican national team, and then there's ones that are from Europe that went to play in the Euros. So it left a lot of these MLS teams with watered down lineups because they continued to play throughout those 2 tournaments going on. And what happens is, and I saw it last year, and I found some really great spots to make money and profit for clients in finding teams that are just going to look at this tournament and say, okay, we have 2 group stage games. Let's mail in the points. And take that 7 to 10 or 10 to 14 days off, and practice, rest the players, and get them ready for the final 9 games of the season. And those are normally teams that are either at the very top of the standings who in the MLS, the way the MLS works is that if you're the championship game is never determined ahead of time where it's going to be played. It's going to be played at the team that has the most points. So you have a team like, let's say, Inter Miami. They want to win the MLS Cup. By doing that, you need to win the Supporters Shield. So the games in the league are more important than winning this tournament. They've already won this tournament. And conversely, you look at the teams that are in 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th spot. 9 is the playoff line where 8th and 9th place play a play-in game, much like to be the 16th seed in March Madness and face the number 1 team in the conference. So, and there's a bunch of teams within 2 or 3 points of that line, that 9th playoff line. Austin FC was one team last year. They pretty much mailed it in. You could see it with their games. They didn't even use their starters in their first game. They lose, I think it was like 3 or 4-0. So there's going to be teams. I go through team reports. I go through the news conference from the managers of these teams to see how focused they really are on wanting to even play this tournament. It is a tournament where they don't make a lot of money from it. They do make a lot of money if they make the MLS playoffs and can extend that a little longer with a run to the quarterfinals and semifinals. That's where the money is for these teams and not this tournament. So yes, there's going to be some teams that are going to mail it in after this, the hard, long summer that it's been in international football.
Got a couple minutes remaining with Carmine Bianco, who is red hot in soccer, 28-12 since the start of Euros a month ago, a little over a month ago, up 39 units, Carm. So on the way out here, give us one more game here in the Leagues Cup to talk about.
Yeah, this is a West Coast game. So we covered an East Coast game. We're going to go a West Coast game. We're going to go with Seattle and Minnesota tonight. Seattle's minus 143. I think the line's a little shorter than it should be in this one. Minnesota's plus 377. The draw's plus 301, and the total's currently at 2.75. These are two teams where, if you look at them, the trajectory for these two teams are going in opposite directions. Seattle, another team that went through earlier the Champions League, the CONCACAF, and at the beginning of the season, teams have to manage their lineups. So they had a terrible start to the season and have just been coming on, and those are the teams you want to play. Much like Columbus, same thing. Columbus made it to the Champions League final, the CONCACAF Champions League final, eventually losing to Liga MX side Pachuca in that one. But once these teams, and they're very good teams, get on rolls, they just win games. And Seattle was on a great roll since mid to early June. They lost their last game against LAFC, one of the best teams in the league, if not the best team as far as I'm concerned. But this is a team that has owned Minnesota. Minnesota have been absolutely terrible. 1, 2, and 7. That's 1 win, 2 draws, 7 losses. Their last 10 games. That 1 win came against the league's absolutely worst team in San Jose, the Earthquakes. And I just don't see how they can go into Seattle and win this game. 9 visits to Seattle to play this Sounders team in MLS soccer league play. They are 0-9. They have yet to win a game. They've been outscored by a 20-5 goal differential. Seattle is just a different team and plays like it at home. Seattle minus 143 is the correct play here. This should probably be about 25 cents higher.
Carmine Bianco, you have been rolling 28-12. with 7 pushes since the start of the Euros on June 14th, up more than 39 units, cashing at a 70% clip. I got to ask you, you've nailed your analysis today. Talk about one MLS team and one Liga MX team that are live when it comes to future wagers, as you put that 39 unit, 70% winning run on the line.
And I just want to mention real quickly that that run that Teddy mentioned, the almost 40 units of profit, that is with totals during the Euros, Copa America, and MLS. I pivoted away from sides just because the totals were much more profitable, and I have a 4% best bet total going up tonight in the Leagues Cup. So you can get that there. Now, when we look at a couple teams, one MLS team, and I look at one Liga MX team that can win this tournament, it is going to be LAFC. As far as this is a team that is getting better, they're having quietly, they're having probably one of their best seasons. You look at them in their second place, and they've had ones where they've had a ton of points. But this is they play a much more transition-based game, playing from the back out, ball possession. Very good team, and you're getting them at plus 800, 8-1 to win this MLS Cup. They're going to get into the knockout stages. They're a very good team, and I think they could very well make the finals. And then Cruz Azul of Mexico. This is a team that right now is, after 4 games of the new season, the Apertura season in Mexico, they are top of the league right now, 3-0-1, 10 points. The one win it came against the CONCACAF the Champions League winners in Pachuca. And before the season started, they spent just a little over $20 million to better this team. A couple of midfielders, a defender, and they brought back their Greek striker, who I think played for Atlanta United, and they're playing really well. They're plus 1,200, 12-1 to win this tournament, and I've got money on that one, and I've got my clients on that one, so plus 1,200 on them to win this league's cup.
It's Carmine Bianco talking some soccer. He's up almost 40 units since the middle of June. And Carm, I always talk about diversifying the portfolio. Pretty good time to add one of your all-access packages to the Fill Your Cart special this Friday right now at WagerTalk.com with promo code GameOn25, GameOn25. Carm, let them know what else they'll get from you with that all-access.
Yeah, there's obviously baseball as well too. I've got some soccer futures that are coming out because next month we're literally 2.5 weeks away from all the European seasons starting again. The Premier League, Italian Serie A, La Liga in Spain, Bundesliga Germany, and of course Ligue 1 in France. Bunch of futures I put out there, and then some 2 or 3 division win props for the NFL. I'm looking forward to another big NFL season. A good one last year, over 75 units of profit in the NFL. And let's see if we can follow it up and have a strong finish to 2024. So pick up the All Access and be a part of all of that, guys.
Once again, got to use that promo code GameOn25 for an instant 25% discount on everything you can put in your cart this Friday only at WagerTalk.com. Thanks to Carmine Bianco, Gianni the Greek, Andy Lang. Thank you, Teddy Covers, for guest hosting with her, for allowing me to guest host with you the last 2 days. The Prez is scheduled to be back on Monday, but things can change. He often gets called out on assignment on Sunday night, so we'll see. I might see you again next week, Teddy. You never know. But once again, all seriousness, that's a great special. Today is the only day to take advantage of a 25% discount on any daily packages. You get multiple cappers for Friday or a 3-day, or the all access up to a full year, which is an instant $500 discount right off the gate before you even start. It's a great way to save money and earn money here for the long term at WagerTalk.com. GameOn25 is the promo code you need for that instant 25% discount on Friday. Teddy, have a great weekend. Best of luck and take us home.
Sure, but you will not see me next week, whether you're a guest or a host, because I get a vacation next week. I haven't taken one this summer. Right. I'm ready to take a week off. I'll be back the following Monday, with an NFL opening line report right here on Wager Talk Today. It'll be Monday, August 5th. So be sure to get ready for that day. Between now and then, enjoy the games. Best of luck with all your bets. And remember, Wager Talk Today will be back again on Monday with someone other than me. Cheers.